Hello everyone and welcome to Educare 247. This is the ninth lecture in the series on economy and finance MCQs, and today we'll be covering MCQs from 20th to 27th July 2020. This series is important for RBI as well as SEBI Grade A 2020 examination. Now before moving on, Educate 247 brings you SEBI Grade A 2020 crash course, which features around 5000 plus MCQs with concise content and live doubt sessions. So you can log onto the website and apply coupon code SEBI to get 1500 rupees off on the course. Now moving to the MCQs. First, according to Financial Stability Report recently released by the RBI, the capital to risk weighted asset ratio of scheduled commercial banks has gone down to -% in March 2020 from 15% in September 2019, and the options are A 12.5%, B 13.6%, C 14.8%, or D 11.8%. So the correct answer here is C, that is 14.8%. The capital to risk weighted asset ratio of the scheduled commercial banks has gone down to 14.8% in March 2020 from 15% in September 2019. Speaking about capital to risk adequacy ratio, it is the capital which is required for a bank and is measured in terms of the assets, mostly loans, which are disbursed by the banks. Higher the assets, higher should be the capital by the bank. A notable feature of capital risk adequacy ratio is that it measures capital adequacy in terms of the riskiness of the assets or loans given. For example, if the bank has given loans to the government by investing in government securities like bonds, it need not keep any capital. This is because the riskiness of loans to government securities is zero, and hence the risk weight for government securities is zero. But in the case of risky assets like loan to the real estate sector, the risk weighted will be higher, for example 300%. Here, if the capital risk adequacy ratio is 9% for standard assets with a risk weight of 100%, a bank should keep rupees 27 for giving rupees 100 loans to the real estate sector. Capital is classified in terms of its degree of contribution from the owners or shareholders. Tier 1 capital is more at equity capital, or it is provided by the most responsible people of the bank, that is, its shareholders. Hence, most of the Tier 1 capital will be in the form of equity. On the other hand, Tier 2 capital is in the form of reserves or debts. The Tier 1 capital is the core measure of a bank's financial strength from a regulator's point of view. It is composed of the core capital, which consists primarily of common stock and disclosed reserves but may also include non-redeemable, non-cumulative preferred stock, while Tier 2 capital represents supplementary capital such as undisclosed reserves, revaluation reserves, general loan loss reserves, hybrid capital instruments, and subordinated debt of the financial institution. The idea is simple. If you are managing huge money in the form of loans given, you should put more money into your bank. Such a deployment of money will make you more responsible while you give loans, because loans are financed out of deposits. If loans are not coming back, the depositors should not suffer. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding the Consumer Protection Act 2019. First, it establishes Central Consumer Protection Authority to promote, protect, and enforce the right of consumers, and can also conduct investigation into the violation of consumer rights. Second, prevention of unfair trade practice by e-commerce platforms and healthcare service providers are covered under the Act. Third, alternate dispute resolution mechanism of mediation has also been provided in the Act. Which of the statements is correct? A. 1 and 2, B. 2 and 3, C. 1 and 3rd, or D. All of them. So the correct answer here is C, that is, first and third one is correct. The Consumer Protection Act comes into force on 20th July, and it looks to empower consumers and help them in protecting their rights through its various rules and provisions. The new act will be swift and less time consuming compared to the old Consumer Protection Act of 1986. The Consumer Protection Act establishes the Central Consumer Protection Authority, whose objective is to promote, protect, and enforce the right of consumers. It is empowered to conduct investigations into violation of consumer rights and institute complaints. It can order recall of unsafe goods and services. It can also order discontinuance of unfair trade practices and misleading advertisements. It can also impose penalties on manufacturers, endorsers, and publishers of misleading ads. Moving on to the next question. According to the International Trade Union Confederation's 7th edition of the IUTC Global Rights Index 2020, India ranked among the 10 worst countries for working people. The index ranks how many countries on the basis of respect for workers' rights? And the options are A 150, B 167, C 144, or D 132. So the correct answer here is C, that is 144. India is among the 10 worst countries for working people according to the 7th edition of the International Trade Union Confederation Global Rights Index, which ranks 144 countries on the degree of respect for workers' rights. The others include countries such as Bangladesh, Brazil, Colombia, Egypt, and Zimbabwe. The Middle East and North Africa is the worst region in the world for working people for 7 years running due to the ongoing insecurity and conflict in Palestine, Syria, Yemen, and Libya, coupled with the most regressive workers. The report concludes that 85% of countries violated the right to strike and 80% of countries violated the right to collectively bargain. The number of countries that impeded the registration of unions has increased. 3 new countries, which includes India, Egypt, and Honduras, have entered the list of 10 worst countries for workers. The number of countries that denied or constrained freedom of speech has also increased from 54 in 2019 to 56 in 2020. The Global Rights Index exposes a breakdown in the social contract that governments and employers have with working people. There is a trend to restrict the working rights through violations of collective bargaining, withholding the right to strike, and excluding workers from unions. Moving on to the next question. R. Narayanaswamy has been appointed as the chair of the Technical Advisory Committee of the National Financial Reporting Authority. Who among the following is the current chairperson of the National Financial Reporting Authority? And the options are A. S. Subramanian, B. Vidya Rajaram, C. Anant Narayan, or D. Rangachari Sridharan. So the correct answer here is D, that is Rangachari Sridharan. So the National Financial Reporting Authority was constituted on 1st October 2018 by the Government of India under subsection 1 of section 132 of the Companies Act 2013. The duties of the National Financial Reporting Authority are to recommend accounting and auditing policies and standards to be adopted by companies for approval by the central government. It monitors and enforces compliance with accounting standards and auditing standards. It oversees the quality of service of the professions which are associated with ensuring compliance with such standards and also suggests measures for improvement in the quality of service. The rules provide that the authority shall protect the public interest and the interest of the investors, the creditors, and other associates with the companies or body corporates by establishing high quality standards of accounting and auditing and exercising oversight of accounting functions performed by the companies and auditing functions which are being performed by the auditors. Moving on to the next question. Which country became the 25th country to receive observer status in the World Trade Organization? And the options are A. Afghanistan, B. Iran, C. Kazakhstan, or D. Turkmenistan. And the correct answer here is D, that is Turkmenistan. The country became the 25th one who was granted observer status in the World Trade Organization. Turkmenistan has now become the last former Soviet republic to establish some formal identity with the trade body. The Central Asian country filed a request for observer status in May and expressed desire to give rise to the talks on joining the WTO in 5 years. The WTO has 164 members, while 24 countries already have the status of an observer. Turkmenistan is the 25th one with an image of an observer. Moving on to the next question. Which payment bank has partnered with the National Skill Development Corporation to train and skill the youth in rural India for financial service sector jobs? And the options are A. Airtel Payments Bank, B. India Post Payments Bank, C. Paytm Payments Bank, or D. Fino Payments Bank. So the correct answer here is A, that is Airtel Payments Bank. Airtel Payments Bank recently collaborated with the National Skill Development Corporation to train and skill young people in rural areas on financial services, thus enabling them to find jobs and become entrepreneurs in the sector. The partnership aims at designing and conducting targeted skill development programs for rural youth that will focus on adoption of tools to boost online banking and digital financial services at a time when the smartphone market is growing and the usage of 4G has increased due to stay-at-home restrictions. Airtel Payments Bank and NSDC will also encourage the trainees to take up entrepreneurial roles such as distributors or resellers of financial services, which will lead to creation of more jobs in the local geographies. Moving on to the next question. Which form was revised by the CBDT to enhance the flow of information between taxpayers and tax authorities? And the options are A. Form 26AS, B. Form 15IC, C. Form 10BA, or D. Form 44AB. So the correct answer here is A, that is Form 26AS. The new form is effective from June 1st, 2020, which will now include detailed financial transactions. The form will provide information about specified financial transaction, the pending tax proceedings, as well as the completed proceedings. The tax department has said that this form will become a comprehensive document and give a boost to the faceless assessment initiative of the department. The new form is applicable for the assessment year 2020 and will consist of specified high-value transactions, for example, cash deposits or withdrawals, which includes bearer check of over Rs 50 lakh from one or more current accounts of a person and all-time deposits except renewals of over 10 lakh made in a financial year. Moving on to the next question. Recently, the Reserve Bank of India has signed a $400 million currency swap facility with which of the following country? And the options are A. Nepal, B. Bangladesh, C. Sri Lanka, or D. Bhutan. So the correct answer here is C. Sri Lanka. The Reserve Bank of India has signed an agreement for extending 400 million currency swap facility to Sri Lanka to boost the foreign reserves and ensure financial stability of the country during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sri Lanka said it was set to enter into an agreement with the RBI for a currency swap worth 400 million under the South Asian Region for Regional Cooperation Framework. In the case of a swap arrangement, a country provides dollars to a foreign central bank which at the same time provides equivalent funds in its currency to the former, based on the market exchange rate at the time of transaction. The parties agree to swap back these quantities of the two currencies at a specified date in the future, which could be the next day or even 2 years later, using the same exchange rate as in the first transaction. The RBI also offers similar swap lines to central banks in the SAARC region with a total corpus of $2 billion. Under the framework for 2019 and 22, the RBI will continue to offer a swap arrangement within an overall corpus of $2 billion. Other countries can withdraw funds in the US dollar, the euro, or the Indian rupee. The original facility came into operation on 15th November 2012 to provide a backstop line of funding for short-term foreign exchange liquidity requirements or balance of payment crisis until longer-term arrangements were made. Moving on to the next question. What is the amount approved for 81 projects under Special Window for Affordable and Mid-Income Housing Investment Fund? And the options are A. 8,076 crore, B. 8,112 crore, D. 8,767 crore, or D. 9,357 crore. So the correct answer here is C, that is rupees 8,767 crores. So the Union Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman reviewed the performance of Special Window for Affordable and Mid-Income Housing Scheme along with the Secretary of Ministry of Finance and senior team of the SBI Capital Markets. The fund has approved 81 projects with an investment of 8,767 crores. The Swami Investment Fund 1 has progressed from a policy announcement to an operational initiative on the ground and has approved 81 projects that will enable the completion of almost 60,000 homes across India. The projects are spread across a mix of markets which includes large cities such as NCR, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, and also Tier 2 locations such as Karnal, Panipat, Lucknow, Surat, Dehradun, and Kota. Additionally, the fund is also active in evaluating options to provide relief to 15,000 home buyers in certain long-stalled projects which are pending before the Honorable Supreme Court for resolution. Moving on to the next question. The Reserve Bank of India publicized the report on the Committee for Analysis of QR Code recently. Who among the following chaired the committee? And the options are A. Deepak B. Pathak, B. Arvind Kumar, C. Sunil Mehta, or D. A.S. Ramasastry. So the correct answer here is A, that is Deepak B. Pathak. The committee was constituted on December 23, 2019 under the chairmanship of Professor D.B. Pathak to review the prevalent system of QR codes in the country and facilitate digital payments and submits its recommendations. The committee was to analyze the benefits arising of a common QR code and assess the scope for improvement in existing QR codes and suggest measures towards adoption of Bharat QR as a convergent which would be future-proof. Recommendations are based on 4 pillars which includes interoperability and scalability, innovation, security, and customer education and awareness. So that's it for this video. Thank you and happy learning.